Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Hey,
yes.
how are you?
We're
We're doing
good.
we're
You
doing
look
good.
beautiful.
You too. Both of you looking good. I tell you, Jesus has been good to us,
I
huh?
know that's right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh, guys, so I just wanted to just take this time to talk with you guys. We've been hanging out with each other for years, and I thought it
Yes.
was good to get this on tape. So I just want to hear about what you guys have been up to. We met about 18 years ago.
18.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been that long. Yeah, it's been
Wow.
about 18 years because I was promoting my CD like in 2002.
I
There it
remember
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and so that's where I met you guys. You guys, so I just want to hear about your story, how you guys got started. You had Want Your Souls One going on at the time, and just your community work today, and just how you're operating in the midst of COVID and all of that.
Well, what's funny is you mentioned 2002, and that's when we started our singing ministry. We had just
Mhm.
gotten married a few years before that.
Mhm.
And we initially started the group because we had uh, done a single for me or a solo project, I mean. And
Okay.
so to sound the same everywhere we went, we
Uh-huh.
we added people to come with us when we would sing and promote my project. And we were
Mhm.
like, well, if this is going to become a group, we need to actually come up with a name. And that's when and I came up with the name Souls One. I had no idea it was going to go the route that it went, that that the Lord led us. And it's just been amazing because from having that singing group, from doing one solo CD,
Mhm.
we kept the same name, and it's become now our outreach ministry, which just this past weekend we celebrated 15 years of
Wow.
just in the outreach, not even
Yes.
the music part of it. But of course we still do music all the time, so
Yes,
Yes.
of course,
I mean,
absolutely.
going back even farther, I joined Ebenezer Baptist Church, my former
mhm.
pastor, and we became Ebenezer Full Gospel Baptist Church.
Mhm.
But I was
Mhm.
just when I came on board, they brought me on board as a director, and then I went from the director to minister of music, and
Mhm.
was with our pastor. I think the 12 years going up to 2002. I was just playing every Sunday morning, being faithful, and
Mhm.
God was just leading up to that. I met my wife here.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. What was it? 94,
Around 94.
94.
I was a student in the
Yes,
area, as I wasn't initially from this area.
yes.
I was a transfer student to Frostburg State, which is just up the road from us, about
Mhm.
maybe 10 minutes,
Yes,
and where we live now, obviously.
yes,
And then, so that's how I ended up in the area.
Mhm.
And I was on the gospel choir as a
yes,
student, and we
yes,
had all singers and no musicians. So
yes.
it turned out that he had played for that same choir, but many years prior when it was all different people. At a college, you've
Yeah.
got a lot of turnover because people come, they go to school, and then they leave. And so the year that I came in, like I said, we had all singers and no one to play. So
Mhm.
someone recalled that he had played for the choir years before that.
Mhm.
Someone that I think advised the choir back, at that time, said, well, last time they had the choir, they
Yes.
had this person play, and so
Yeah.
they gave us a phone number, and long story short, he accepted,
Yeah.
and he was our choir musician for the gospel choir on campus.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
a lot of times he would have to call me because I was the vice president. And
Mhm.
so at the time he was working shift work. So for us to be sure that we were going to have a musician for the engagements we were asked to minister for, we would have to coordinate schedules and make sure, the events were at a time where he would be off to be able
Mhm.
to, to give us accompaniment. And sometimes it meant that we might have to go and sing without music, but
Mhm.
usually we were able to work it out. And like I said, we would deal with each situation as it came up. And he had to call me a whole lot, and we would get dates together, but then, for the choir, but then that led to our own dates. But not right away, though, because when we met, we were in two totally different situations. We were in previous relationships at the time. Like I said, I was a student. And so it just turned out that way, that our circumstances were conducive to us becoming more than just, musicians and the choir member. And he always tells this joke about, and it's really not a joke because it's a true story, that whenever we were about to, or whenever he took me out, quote unquote, the first time, I was always with the choir. I always had, a bunch of people with me. So the first time he had to take the whole choir out just to sit beside me at a restaurant after a Sunday service. And it was the truth. He did. He took the whole choir out and paid for the whole thing. Just because, like I say, I was always with people, and that's how we got to start talking, and it's that music that we had in common. And then sometimes when we when he would have us come to the church, we would sing, but I would attend even when it was just me, or when we weren't singing, because I wanted to have a spiritual covering for while I was away from home, while I was in school. And so that developed too, because I started to love the church and became very active in the church over the years that I was there. He was there under our former pastor for 15 years, and I was there for about 10 of those. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I think at 90, what is it, about 99 that we start getting serious? I mean, like God was leading us.
No, we didn't start getting serious in 99. We got married in 99.
No, I'm talking about as far as the music ministry.
As far as the music ministry.
I became a manager for a couple of years.
Yeah, I married my manager because that's how I kind of ended up doing a solo project.
I became our manager.
Yes.
Awesome. I love it.
I was well connected. And the Lord blessed me with, became our manager, and then we led up to we was praying for another singer, and then one of the young ladies moved here to the city. Lisa, well, she's Diop now, but Lisa Howes at the time, and she came here. She was a professor at at Frostburg State University. Wow. And she was praying about getting back into the singing ministry too.
And we were praying because we needed another singer. And it couldn't have come together any better. So our first group was just the two of us, plus usually it was a third person, and finally when she came, it was a little bit more solid. Because it was just like whoever we were featuring for whatever engagement, and then like he said, we became more serious about making it into a group. And so, like we were saying before, around 2002 is when we kind of launched as a group, and we were singing mostly music from my solo project, and then we would add other songs on there as well, some of our favorite songs, and even some originals.
I think a lot of things were going on at the time because Bishop McIntyre, was Pastor McIntyre, Bishop McIntyre now, they were from the DC area. And so we were going back and forth if we were going to be a part of the Baltimore area, which was Bishop Oscar Brown, Full Gospel. And so one thing led to another, and we just came, Bishop living in DC, he decided, we decided, like, let's go with Full Gospel. We came, and I think Bishop Brent was the bishop at that time, and then he passed on, and then Bishop Kelsey, Michael Kelsey, became bishop. And so what happened was we got access to, like, they had the convocation, they would have a mass choir, and one thing led to another. We started, we got connections, started going down for rehearsals. At first, they were kind of playing it off, like, who's this little, who's this people from West Virginia, Cumberland, But the thing was that we stayed faithful. We went down every Saturday. We were faithful.
That's more than 2 hours one way just for practice.
And we were on time. And so what happened, long story short, people started taking notice. They were like, well, where's Cumberland, Maryland? Cumberland's here.
They never heard of them.
And then Shannon had they had auditions for the mass choir. She got a lead on the mass choir. Then we had a Caucasian young lady. I can't think now.
Well, she tried out for parts too, and so we got to sing together.
Yes. Another young lady that sang with us at the time. Mama having a senior moment at this moment. But the Corinza, and she, two of them got to sing, and with the Supermass choir, it was nice. So then I got to take a bus down the following year. I think the first year we might have met you. I'm not for sure.
Yeah,
I think it was downstairs. They would have have tables set up.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it was actually in Bishop Kelsey's church.
There we go.
That's where we were.
Yeah, yes.
Because you said Pastor Doug, we didn't meet her up here.
No.
You initially, when we joined forces, then I believe you were instrumental in bringing her ministry here. And she was able to minister there.
Well, Pastor Doug's the pastor here.
Right.
I don't know which one.
Which one you were talking about? But that's still all part of the history too.
Yeah, but one thing led to another where by us being so faithful, Dr. Carla didn't really start. Got a relationship with them. They came up. I think I brought a bus down the second year. The third year they came up. They came up to Bishop McIntyre to Praise Baptist, Ebenezer Baptist Church. But in our fifth year, everybody came up. They brought New Samaritan Choir. Bishop Kelsey came. Isaiah Thomas came. In the midst of all that, we established a relationship with you guys. You came out for our anniversaries, we had connections with the ministry Gateway in Hagerstown. And I don't know, God just gave us so many connections over here. It was always favor. It was nothing but favor of God. The way everything happened. When we launched, we were, I think in 2005, the Lord put on our heart to open up an outreach ministry.
Right.
And, and
so we just kept the same name because we had by then sung as Souls One Ministries for about 4.5 years, maybe, give or take. And in that time frame, we were able to travel to Zurich, Switzerland and minister. And we would travel in the Tri-Towns area and surrounding areas. And, we did everything from homegoing services to weddings. Then around here, they have a lot of big events called like Canal Fest and, different festivals and different things that we would start getting bookings, which was really funny because again, I was just, a student that liked to sing, and I was able to connect with someone who knew all of the people in the area as far as, the pastors and the praise leaders that were looking for people to have come sing. So I started off singing in the churches in the area around here, just little old me. And a lot of times he would even play for me, or I would just sing by soundtrack, just my favorite songs, and just something so small that was just humble that I never expected to grow any further than that has now launched, our outreach ministry. It's just, when we talk about it, it's just really an amazing story because, we never knew at the time when the Lord allowed us to meet that this would even be possible. Like I said, when we met, we were already in relationships. We weren't looking for that at the time, but it's just the way the Lord brought us together. And now as we're doing this, we've celebrated 21 years of marriage. We have an 8-year-old daughter, and like I said before, our outreach ministry is now 15 years old. And what he didn't mention is that our former pastor, who's now bishop, has stayed very close to us, who's now Bishop John B. McIntyre Sr. And he's the one, he was talking about going back and forth to DC. Well, the Cumberland to DC, as you well know, is well over 2 hours. And so he commuted from DC to Cumberland weekly, sometimes several times a week, as the pastor for like 23 some odd years. And so like it's through his leadership, like we said, that because he was in DC, that we were in a lot of DC functions. And then again, that's how, we came to meet you. And how they say the rest is history. But he's a bishop now in a council called the Ecumenical Council of Christian Churches. And the awesome part of it is that when he became a bishop, he didn't forget about my husband. He's always still remained in close contact with him. And he was able to bring him before the board of that council that he's a part of, for him to be elevated into the office of bishop, which now, in fact, this month makes 5 years that he's been a bishop now. So we pastored for all those years beforehand, I would say 10 years of our 15. He was pastor, I was co-pastor. But when the Lord elevated him to the office of bishop, then when he became bishop, I went from co-pastor to pastor.
Yes. Awesome. I love it. So, one of the things that I was most attracted to you guys. I was just so blessed by your outreach ministry. And I had, learned about the work that you guys were doing in the community, and just even had the opportunity to meet some of the people. So share with me some of the things that you guys have done, and then how are you doing it now in the midst of everything that's going on in our world today?
I think before was basically relationships is everything to us, and the Lord always put favor on us, even from a young child, young man, coming up. I came out of the Church of God in Christ, so we came out, shouting, and the anointing was already on, praising God.
Yes.
And one thing they did, they always good training. They always taught us, mothers of the church, and you had the pastors and fathers in the Lord, that type of thing. So even when I, as a young man, I grew up in Pittsburgh. My father passed away when I was about 11 or 12. We moved back in the early 70s. But the Lord just always had favor on us. My mom she was a praying woman. And through the prayers of my mother, the oil from her just dribbled down on us. God just gave us the know-how. When we first went to Ebenezer Baptist Church, God, they didn't really understand because they had boards, they had different things, but we were sent there to be a blessing to our pastor, Pastor McIntyre and First Lady McIntyre. And so, we just had that know-how. God has given us how to raise money for the anniversaries, to support them. If they weren't able to make it, they were traveling back and forth to DC. We would carry the church, that type of thing. But through the process, like they say, if you're in Rome, you got to do what Rome does. So we were blessed that we had a lot of Caucasian churches and my white brothers and sisters and the pastors that we had established great relationships. And my pastor from DC, so it was just a little different in the the regions and the way you do things, but God just gave us a lot. We just established our brand up here in this area, and we just went for it. I've established. We did fellowship services, we did conventions, we did teas, we did we did everything, everything that you could think of that God had put on our heart. The vision the Lord blessed us with. So we just did a preach on. That's one of the things that we did. We're doing now on Zoom. The Lord just put something in my heart. I had all the preachers on last night, and they were doing 5 minutes, and all of them were out of order, but they tore it up. They probably was 7 or 8.
Oh, but it was so good. You didn't even notice.
So I mean, way we did it then, of course, like you're doing it, everyone else, we had, the relationships you had, and and you invite people to come and, to our events. And so now we have, this all happened back in February, March. Yes. Shannon and I looked at each other and it's like, what we're going to do now, that type of thing. So we decided to say, well, let's go on Facebook. And we had a little camera set up in our little kitchen. And so we decided, what's still coming and say, I'm Bishop Watkins, and being so politically correct, we decided just to be transparent, let our hair down, and let the people see us, having a great time. And the main thing that, we knew that the people need love, they need hope, they need to be encouraged. And so we went for it, and, it just, I hate to say, Lord, please, but it's like, we became a hit. I mean, people really love us,
because we didn't intend for that. In fact, we were just calling ourselves doing Sunday morning service because, as you know, we weren't able to be in our church.
Humble.
Very humble.
All about
and
Jesus,
in fact, what's really, really funny is that he was already doing a little live 5 or 10 minute thing on the way to church in the car, just by himself, because I usually would come after with Shekinah, our daughter, and he would leave a little bit ahead of us, and he'd be like, so just, you're welcome to come today, and we're expecting a high time in the Lord, and he'd be driving, and even he got a little showing or following, I should say, with that, and then so I wasn't even, didn't want to do that video type stuff. And so, so when the Lord compelled us to continue to do something so that way that people could still remain encouraged, you know, I said, okay, well, we'll figure out something. So we actually got dressed like we were going to church and sat right at our table where we're sitting right now.
That's
and we started doing 11 a.m. service, and immediately, like he said, it became a hit. And that's not what we want to call it, but it just caught on so fast that people were like, oh, can you guys come back on later on tonight? And you need to do this every day. I think one of his brothers said, you should come on every day and have a segment. And we were like, are you kidding us? So it turned out that we were only going to do Sunday morning at 11 because that's what we were doing anyway. We never had really an evening service unless it was a special occasion. So we said, okay, well, we'll just do 11 in the morning and we'll do an evening service. So we started doing that, and that caught on. And then the Lord led us maybe a few weeks later to start doing another live later in the week. So now we come on at 8:00 on Thursdays and we take prayer requests. But every time that we do it, we do actually have a word, and we start off with music, and we're very lively. We're very similar to the way we have service. And even though we're sitting at a table, you know, people, like I said, just started catching on, and we you got to incorporate the music because that's the connection that everyone has with us is the music first anyway. And so we've never lost that. We just do it a little bit less than when we were actually traveling and singing. But you know, we're still doing music every Sunday, even in our own church. Even with us being the founders of our own church, you know, we figured we were a package deal. So we made a deal. We said, well, even if nobody ever comes, we got the word and the music, and we'll preach to each other, and we'll just and see what the Lord says. And 15 years later, we've never had to just preach to one another. We always had, even if it was a small group, we had a congregation. Praise God for that.
Now, Pastor Denise, I had a following going to church, right? But when Pastor Shannon came on, our ratings went way up.
You know, I think it is something about the husband and wife team that people just enjoy, you know, because you don't really get to see that too often. But I've noticed that whenever there's a pastor that has been preaching, everybody loves it. But when he brings his wife and they begin to operate together, it says something more, I guess, in the spirit.
It shows that they're, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay, that we're a team. You know, it's just like what you're saying. But when he did it, it was just inviting people to church. And then he said, once I came on the scene, they were like, oh, like there she is. Well, and I think even one of our friends, fellow pastor friends said, you know, we enjoyed you too, Bishop, but we really enjoyed with your wife. And so we just played off of it because we really didn't have a script. We still don't. All these months later, we still have maybe like a little format, but I was trying to be so particular. You'll laugh at this because I sat and I wrote down exactly, okay, now after you say this, we're going to do this. And after you say this, we're going to do this. And not because I had it in my mind because of church and how we do church and the programs, but I felt like it was live and we had to have a game plan or else we were going to look silly. We tried that the first time and the only time because he didn't follow anything I wrote down. And he's laughing because he knows I'm telling the truth. And it wasn't because I was trying to box him in. I just wanted to make sure it flowed, not knowing that it was going to come so naturally to us.
Well, we have about maybe 2 or 3 songs that I play, but I don't play the whole song. Just play a little bit of it, then we'll turn it back down and just kind of, you know, eject off what song we're playing. And I thought this was the season for my wife. I'm pushing her forward. This is her season.
That's awesome.
She, you know, supported me. I think Shannon's preaching on a high level right now. So
great.
And I can oversee that. You know, I'm the overseer, but I just really feel like this is really, she's bringing the house down at church now, and God's anointing her.
Now.
We're doing it as a team. And, you know, that's one of the things I believe that's why everybody, like you said, people is joining in with us because we really kind of feeding off each other, you know. She makes it fun to, you know, have everybody cracking up, got me cracking up, you know, and that people could see the love that we're sharing and having a great time, you know.
And they can see that, like he was, I think he used the word transparent. They can see that it's natural. We really couldn't even practice that if we tried. And so it's evident, like you're even saying, that it's a side of us that people don't get to see, that we're real people, and we live in a real house. We have a daughter. We do normal people things. Because you know, I don't know about anyone else, but it's funny, you know, when you're growing up and you're going to school as a child, you know, I don't know, like I said, what anyone else thinks or what they ever thought, but you know, you kind of thought that the teacher was part of the classroom. You know, you saw that they maybe had different clothes on every day, or I hope they did, but you just kind of assume, you just kind of put them in the classroom almost as if they were part of the classroom. It's like furniture, you know, like the desks and the chairs. And so sometimes I think people don't realize that, you know, even in your profession, that you go home after work every day and you have a family. Well, just like pastors, you know, we have to pray to God, just like we're encouraging you to. We have struggles, just like we're encouraging you to work through. And so, you know, one of the ones that I always share as my platform that I believe the Lord has given me is about, you know, the whole time we've been pastoring, and it's been 15 now, going on 16 years now. And you know, to be able to share with families as they were able to bring, you know, their new babies home from the hospital. And that's something that we weren't blessed to do until we were married for 13 years. And, you know, and that's a very painful thing. You know, you're praying through that, but you got to celebrate everyone else. And I'm not even saying that it wasn't from my heart, but it comes from a place of hurt and desire. People, because he's a lot older than I am, and we had been gone so many years without having a baby, they thought, now that they've told us, because I didn't know that they were thinking this, they thought that we just didn't want to have kids. So, and what they didn't know is that there was a struggle behind all of that. And so I think when it was found out that I was pregnant after many procedures and miscarriages and everything else, when we finally had my baby shower, we had like 100 people, because we just had it at our church and it was huge. And even then, I'm backwards because I had already had her, because she came so early. I was only pregnant for 23 weeks. And so everything that the Lord has done with us, even including that, I say backwards, and you know, I don't mean that. And I definitely don't mean it in an offensive way. It's just always been in an unbelievable way, the way the Lord would take something that just seems like second nature or normal for everyone else, and he's done it so differently for us. Like even how we met, even that I never went back home after school. You know, in fact, I always say, you know, after I met him, that was it after that, because my mom was so upset. I'm an only child. I have no siblings. So she was just like, you know, well, I know when you get married, you coming back here. Because again, I'm from Baltimore, and I was only 2 hours from my hometown when I came to school. But she was like, you're not from there, so at least you can come home and get married. So we did get married in my home church in Baltimore, Faith Baptist Church. And it's been part of my family's history for almost 80 years. And so so that was the one wish my mom had, was that I would at least get married in our home church that I was raised in. And we did. So it's funny because everyone that was in our wedding, mostly all were from this area. So we all had to travel and, you know, for our wedding and everything. And it was great because, again, that music, well, we had our choir, the same gospel choir that he played for, was even a part of our wedding. They sang a song as part of our wedding, and we also sang to one another. And it's sort of like our theme, even to this day. We sang a song together, Second Chance, as a duet, even as part of our wedding ceremony. And like I say, that's just been a song that we've even become known for, because we sang it at our church. And then we came up with the idea, well, we should do that as part of our ceremony, because we had gotten engaged and broken up and got re-engaged, and we were given a second chance even at a relationship and marriage, and so we use that as part of our story, even as we're counseling couples who we've married quite a few couples in 15 years, but not without counseling. And so we like to share our story with them and let them know, hey, you know, we went through some things, we went through some struggles, we had to change a lot of things about ourselves and our relationship, and you know, we were together one minute and we broke up the next, you know, that happened a couple times, and we let people know that what you see today is not just how it always was.
That's right.
You know, there's a journey, there's a story as part of the process.
Awesome. So. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Amen.
Okay. So now you guys, what do you think I mean, what are you planning for 2021, or where do you see things going in the next, 3-5 years?
Wow.
Well, I think, we're still, they said on this rock, I'll build my church, and I believe the church is going to stand.
Yes.
I think right now we just have to get more educated. I mean, I think particularly the African American church, we're so behind on social media. It's crazy, So I think I have to get more educated on some things that we can do alternative. Just being prepared for whatever comes, if everything clears up, we can have church as usual. That's fine. If things, continue on like they are now, then we just have to have alternative ways to worship the Lord. I just think one way or another, that God, he says he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So I just know that we're standing on his word. I'm gonna trust God. I pray that he give us some resources, relationships. I'm going into more business now, learn how to invest, in finances and that type of thing here. So that way I want to be more educated, teaching our deacons that everyone can be prosperous and blessed. Saving that our grandmother said, save for a rainy day.
Right.
A lot of times we didn't use our money right, when we were coming along, but that's what the Lord's blessings. He said your latter will be better than your former. And I believe that by us being faithful in a small market here in Cumberland, Maryland. And I remember when we got blessed, we were down the street from the church that we're in now in a little storefront. And it was amazing how, long story short, the landlord that we had then ended up going for another woman, businesswoman. Her name is Lisa Claus. They teamed up together and they ended up buying that church. They want us to be in it out of Ford Ministries. So,
which is huge because they could have paid more. They were more established. At that point, we had only had Souls One Outreach Ministries for about 3.5 years. That was it. And we had established in that short couple of years of relationship enough with them that they said, no, we want what Shannon and Kenny is bringing to this area. So the other ministries that wanted to be in that building, which is a historical building, they had to either find somewhere else or stay where they were because they moved us in there. But what he didn't mention was that same church, while we were at Ebenezer, was the same church that our group, when it was first started, had practices so that we didn't have to keep opening up our own church to, especially during the winter months and turning on the heat and all that. Well, this church was left vacant for a while because that congregation merged with its sister congregation, which is right down the street from our house that we live in now. We just bought a new house about a year ago. And it's just funny how things are full circle, because we always had our practices with our group in this church. And we were like, boy, this would be great if we could have a church in this building. And here we are, 12 years in that building as the pastors.
I mean, we used to have practice.
Blows our mind every time we think about it.
We only had it one day a week, was on
Tuesday nights.
And from practices turned into like more revival. People were coming getting healed.
They were.
We were worshiping. We had other, like Brother Eddie and some of the other ones play saxophone. They lived up in Bedford and Somerset and other places. They would bring other people in.
Yeah, sure did.
And they would have different things going in their life. And one thing lets you know we got to really minister. And, so in the process, we just met so many different people, our Kelly Wright, different ones that are in the, in the industry, I know that God gave us favor with my wife a couple of years ago when Helen Beller, I got a hold of her, and she was like, her price was really high. And I was like, hey, we really don't have it. This is what we have. And so, we going back and forth. And then something just touched her heart. She said, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I need to come. She said, I'll just come on a commercial plane. I'll come and be a blessing. And so she did. She came down and she sang, and Shannon sang with her too. She was here for her. Yeah. She came down one time, right? And then she came back another time. Or the same time
she came down for my birthday.
Yes.
So she was a special guest for my birthday.
Yes.
And then she needed some backup singers for an event at Jericho City of Praise.
Yeah, while she was here.
And so she actually called for me, and along with myself and two other people, we actually got to back her up on the stage. Helen Baylor, you're talking about a dream come true, because and the whole reason why that was such a big deal to him, because he knew how much I've loved her my entire life. And growing up, I always sang, coming up as a solo artist, because I really probably didn't sound that good at first, but you know how you just keep practicing and everything. You never know as you're singing other people's songs and getting better, you know, that it's going to be an outlet for you, or an open door for you, I should say. And so I never would have thought in a million years that she would have ever come for my birthday, and that I would have ever sung with her. You know, it was just like a dream come true. And so and that's just one of the people that I've sung. I'll say I opened up for others, you know, as a solo artist, but also as a part of our group. Like our group would open up for other artists, like Dorothy Norwood, Inez Andrews. I also opened up for CeCe Winans, just myself as a soloist, and there's been quite a few. It's really been exciting, because again, none of this was in our plan, but it just goes to show you, you know, when God says that that our thoughts and our plans are not like his, he's not kidding. I never knew growing up hearing certain scriptures what it really meant until I got old enough to see exactly what was meant by those scriptures, and because I could apply it then, you know. And so it's just been, like he said, just an awesome thing, you know, for the Lord to have given us the kind of favor that he showed us through the people that bought that church. You know, we were practicing there, I don't know, for what, a year or so. And we actually got told when we inquired about it, no, we don't want another congregation to go in this building. You know, we're not ready to sell it. So they kept it and kept paying for it, which is why it was okay to have the heat and all that going on, because they had all these different various groups using it for weddings, for big sisters, little sisters, and mentoring, and woman to woman empowerment, and different. And then our group was in there, and so all of us paying a certain little rent, if you want to say it, was helping them offset the cost to run the building. So we were just one of the groups that used the building. I mean, I'm laughing because I can't believe we're pastoring in that building. It's like a crazy story.
And one thing I want to share with you, I think we was in there a year, maybe the first year or the second year, I can't remember now, that Pastor Denise, you came up. Yes, you to come up for New Year's Eve service, and we call ourselves having some tickets. I said, "No, we wanted." I said, Denise Struthers is coming. We want to definitely be our blessing, you know. And so we advertised everything. We had it was a decent turnout, but it wasn't the turnout we wanted, you know. But you got in there and got the worship, and Lord, you came up to sing that church. You were like, okay, praise God. But when the anointing fell on you, I mean, I don't know what we must have took that over $1,000.
Oh yeah, because if you recall, you gave the appeal.
Yeah, you gave
the appeal for the offering, and you I don't know what it was, how you said it.
People had it up in there. There was only a few of us.
It was beautiful.
When you raised, the anointing fell on you. You start worshiping. We went into a whole different level. Praise God.
But see, that's just the thing about it, though. We don't do it for money, obviously.
No.
But the idea of it was that this was a ministry that was worth sowing into, and that's what you were trying to convey to the people. And if it wasn't for people like yourself, then that continue to do that, we probably wouldn't be sitting here as a bishop and a pastor today from just, like I said, my little solo CD. That's where this started from. We had no intention of pastoring, but just like what he said, we were the practices we were supposed to be having ended up turning into services, and people were coming from all over the place. And when he said from Pennsylvania, he left a few places out. We have people from all over Maryland, but Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and people just started coming, and we were having these Tuesday night practices, and people kept telling us, this is how it kind of got into the outreach. People kept telling us, you guys have a church. All you need is a building, because you guys are pastors. And we would look at each other and crack up laughing, because we thought, what's wrong with these people? We already go to a church. We were fine at Ebenezer doing the music and praise and worship. I was the Sunday school superintendent. He was the minister of music. We had no intention of leaving our church or doing anything like that. But after we kept doing this, and people kept saying the same thing, like we're like, okay, these people are not talking to each other because they don't know each other. So God was using people to confirm it everywhere we went. So after a while, we couldn't deny it. So we started planning talks with our pastor, who's, like I told you before, who's now the bishop, that now they're bishops together. We were like, well, this is what the Lord is putting on our heart. And of course he said, well, I don't want to see you all leave, but he didn't want it to be on him, that he kept us back and didn't push us forward. So he brought us in front of the church. We met with him 3 different times. You know, now people just quit coming to church. They don't talk to their pastor. They don't leave right. It's out of order. We had 3 meetings and we wrote letters and we explained what the Lord put on our heart. He gave us his blessing, which is why I believe they're so close today and still in ministry together today, because we did things right. And over the years that he was the pastor of our former church, he was the last remaining one from the original congregation that he had, from people coming and going over the years, that stayed. And so it's the favor of God that when he brought us up in front of the church, and I tell you what, it's so funny because people from that still got, well, we must have had an issue with the pastor. Something must have went down. Something must have went wrong. But that's how people talk. And that's what they're going to do, because they did the same thing to Jesus. You know what I mean? But he prayed over us, gave us his blessing. It was beautiful. And he pushed us forward. And like I said, we've still been close ever since.
I mean, we left right, but it was hard. Back in those days, you know, like you kind of got, it was like, you know, Coach, it was like you left. You know, it's kind of like they sat back and see if you're going to make it or not. We just had confidence that we sowed into Bishop. We sowed in Lady McIntyre. She went on beat the Lord. But we sowed into them, you know, and I believe that, you know, when you sow into another man's vision, God will bless our vision. And I believe that's where we left right. We always honor them, you know, the man of God and woman of God. You know, they came over and they came and checked things out, and it was all right. You know, we first started off was just the two of this, our family, another family, and we get in and say that Jesus is in the house. You know, the house is full.
The house is full. It might only been 4 or 5 people,
but we got to praise the Lord. You know,
because Jesus is here.
One of the things is when we opened up, it was another church in the city, and Pastor Stevie, young minister, and he was striving at that time, and he heard that we opened up the outreach ministry, and he called me, and all his elders, he came down and met me at the church one night, and he said, I heard y'all's open up the church. He said, Pastor Ken, we want to be a blessing to you, and they put a check in my hand. And we were able to put wall carpet, do our pulpit, put our sign up, everything, every provision from day one, you know. And when we left at first, you know, God just put a prophet and another man of God, Prophet Serena and her husband, Bishop Henry, and we met them through Pastor Dubber and Landover, and her husband, you know, so we met them. And so one thing
we're still friends with them too.
And the one thing led to another, how we going to be elevated. So we, you know, we didn't have our license, like, you know, to really move forward, but God used them, and long story short, you know, they came and did an elevation service.
We were ordained. It was unbelievable.
And then in that process, you know, just going up towards 2000, it was 2005, the same year, we had Bishop Kelsey coming. Right before that, I was telling Bishop Kelsey, and we're in the process of leaving Ebenezer. I don't know how you feel, Bishop. And he was like, well, all is well. He said, all is well. He said, you all have been faithful. And he said, we are coming. He said, I don't have to come to preach. He said, we can come to minister, sing. And so I will never forget. I was in Pastor Doug. We was out to Central, and they pulled up the bus. And he came and he thought the church was mine there. Like that church, he got all excited. I said, no. It's Pastor Doug's, you know, but he just, he laid hands on me and prayed for me. He put his approval on our ministry and the future, going into the future. And I just thank the Lord. He had key people to teach in different areas to put his hand in favor of God and blessings on our life to bring us all up to where we're at today.
And so, you know what's funny? He mentioned Central Assembly. We've mentioned that several times, because we can't tell our story and not mention Central Assembly, because for a few reasons. Because now our brand new house that we just bought about a year ago now is just like almost a stone's throw from from Central Assembly. It's just funny that we live right down the street from it now. But even before that, that's where, when the Lord blessed me to do the solo project, when we debuted it and announced to the world that we were now a group, Souls One Ministries, it was in his church that we were able to do that, based on the fact that, you know, we had established this relationship when we were at our former church, and you know, small community, you know, and he was wanting, you know, diversity in his church, and we always had that rapport, like he said, in the area. So my husband has been very instrumental in getting so many pastors together who would normally not even be speaking to each other, not because there was an issue or anything, but because there's just, usually you have to have one person to kind of bring people together, or at least have an event or something coming up. And the Lord has given my husband literally an anointing to do that. And Pastor Doug was the first speaker that we had, I think the first year that we did an anniversary for Souls One Ministries, or was it Souls One Outreach Ministries? Was it
2007?
2007. Okay, so maybe it was our second year, and we had a big banquet, and we were, we were so excited, just like the ones that you've come to, and even to this day, we remain close, not because we just live down the street, but now I've been at the school part of the church. It's called Lighthouse Christian Academy in Central Assembly on their property there. And I've been now the elementary music resource teacher there for the last 3 or 4 years. So that relationship got me, in that door. Has nothing to do with church, but it is a Christian school, obviously, but just because, of our background. And then and still we had done for a while services together once a month on the first Sunday, Night of Glory, I think Pastor Doug called it. And then the outreach that you mentioned, where we're giving food out to the hungry in the community. Well, they've been a big part of donating towards even that. So even what we've been doing as an outreach ministry, we're still not doing it alone. We're reaching out to other establishments and churches in the community to do what we do to make it even more effective and to show the united front. So we're still even very close with that congregation as well. And it's just been a blessing. I mean, you're talking about decades of history there.
When it goes out beyond the four walls, Pastor Doug, he will not support anybody unless I'm involved in it. He said, I'll call Bishop Kenny. He said that's the truth. He's got a heart for the community. So we did it not last year, 2 years before that. Last year I had to go through my retirement. And so this year coming up is another pastor that's close to downtown. St. Mark Community Church, Pastor Lease. And he said he had a vision, because the mission's right down the street from his church, and the YMCA, people that are homeless, all in that area. And so he wanted to do something. He called Pastor Doug. He was like interim pastor of
St. Mark's.
Central Assembly of God. He was a retired pastor. And so, but they needed a pastor of St. Mark's Community Church, so he took that on. But long story short, he wanted to do something because he didn't know how to go about it. When he called Pastor Doug, he said, I got 2 words called Bishop Kenny. And he said he'll put everything together. And so we had a conversation. We put everything together, and we did it for the last 3 months. We fed over 150 people. Each time through KFC. I'm not talking like a little meal, but KFC partnership with us too.
And all states.
Potatoes out the whole 9 yards. But the main thing we have to say was the witness of people.
Repeat the sinner's prayer.
I gave some calls to City Reach, because City Reach is it's another premier church where they have a home for the women and for drugs, and a home for the men. They're doing a great work here in the city. So I called Pastor Fred. I called some of the churches. The first time all the churches came, and they partnership with us just to pray for the people. People get the lives to the Lord. They got a free meal. So that's something that we're real proud of. This time we used to go out and just pass the flyer out, but we got on Facebook this time, and people started pouring in them parking lots.
Facebook Live.
I said, "Come on down. We want to be a blessing to you." And that we got high numbers. People really was blessed through that. Thank you for going out beyond the 4 walls. One guy said, "Hey, I hadn't had a meal in a couple of days."
He actually said, "You'll never know what this means to me."
Yes.
It was powerful.
So when you could do stuff like that, getting out in the community, back in 2007, we came up. The Lord gave Mom and Evangelist Mildred, my sister-in-law, to do a white and black ball, like a
banquet.
And so we came up with that, and then Pastor Mayor Feeler was our mayor at the time, and we said, well, why don't we just invite the mayor to come out, and we will honor him and it's just corporation and the corporation of our banquet, so like a joint effort. And we did. We came up. We invite the mayor, and then we would go, and they would bring all their people. They would pay for, help us with the banquet. And so after we did the first one, it was such a success. The music was great. The word was good.
Yes.
I think Pastor Doug was our first speaker.
That's what I was saying.
He was saying, like, this is our first one. He said, I don't know what your 10th one's going to be. He was sharing with everyone there. But long story short, so we end up honoring the mayor. We end up honoring the fire department. So that's when we start giving certificates out to people.
But what's funny is it's supposed to be for us. Not to cut you off, honey, but it's supposed to be for us. It's our anniversary. And all we could think about was who are we going to honor this time?
Yeah, we start
because we're always giving back. Yes,
we start giving back to, HRDC, the fire department, our mayors, the police department. We honor our chief of police. He brought all his police, his officers out.
I mean, they would get a whole table.
Table for them.
Yeah.
And we would bring some of the fantastic, Dana Morgan played classical piano, or someone, just the music ministry was outstanding.
Oh, it's like a special
Serena
featured
Ford,
guest.
Different ones.
Yes.
And then we met Minister Lynch along the way. He belonged to First Baptist Church of Glenarden. Yeah. And we became good friends, and through Pastor McIntyre. Yes. So he said, Bishop, Mr. Kenny, Pastor Kenny, when you look out for Minister Lynch, and through that relationship, we got to go to
First Baptist Church
of
Glenarden and sing.
Yeah, that we got the door open there.
Yes.
And that's when they were doing 4 services. They were at their older church then.
Yes.
And what was so ironic about it is when we got in that door, that's when we were striving, like we were moving along. God was opening up a lot of doors. We were singing a song by Kurt Carr, Almost Let Go.
Yeah.
And so that night we sang that song.
It was powerful.
We didn't know that Pastor Jenkins, his message was, don't give up.
Yeah.
And he was like, when we opened up our mouth, it was like
the first line came out of our mouth. He jumped up.
He jumped up, and anointing was on us.
And he brought us back up and had us keep singing it when he got done.
Yeah.
It's focused on our ministry, because that's what it is. It's not entertainment. At the end of the day, we believe that we're here and we've had all these wonderful stories to even share with you, and experiences, and going to Zurich, Switzerland and ministering. And, I mean, that in itself in 2003 was huge, because that was before we even started pastoring. And just our group was able to go, all expenses paid. And we got sent home with big offerings, each one of us. And it was like 18 of us all together at that point that got to take it. Yes.
I had to do a big, we
had to go big time. We did it big, but even in that, it was the favor of God, because the group that the individual was looking for to have come was not available. And so our name came up, and we were like,
well, with my cousin, he lived here.
And it was just, it was awesome. It was our time.
It was our time. He's one of my cousins. Lived in a small town, but he went on to do
right up the street from here.
I won't say he became a millionaire, but he became successful in finances.
Yes.
He went to Kenyon Copeland School. He met his wife.
Yes.
And from there, they ended up moving to Zurich, Switzerland. And
she's Italian.
Yes. So they wanted somebody in America. They want to bring somebody over in our culture to be able
they love gospel music.
Yes. Oh, you should have heard how they were singing the same songs that we sing with the accents. It was so awesome.
I mean, to go over there, our lives was changed. We got to take Isaiah Thomas with us.
Yes, he did.
I took Jeanette Harris. I took a lot of great people that we were connected to at the time. I just felt like, our mothers got to go.
Yeah, both of our moms.
And he paid, I think he paid for 150 CDs. They paid for our.
And at the time, it was just my solo CD.
We stayed at the Hilton.
Come on now.
Then we had catered meals.
Yes.
I felt like I was at Jackson. We thought I had to arrive. I mean, but that day, it's like every so often in life, like God will put something like spectacular in your life to let you know that that you for your faithfulness, He honors that.
That's right.
And so for me, I never got the big salaries or anything like that. But God bless me. It's like every so often through our 15 years, someone would come and just put a check on our table. We didn't get no salaries. We never took a salary. But the Lord blessed me. Had my job for 41 years. Paper company. And then, even when I was at Ebenezer, I got a little salary, but it wasn't, I didn't really didn't have to depend on that because I had a good job to take care of my family. And so what happened was going into winding all the way up to right now, to last year when the company closed, I was going to retire in December anyway, before 2020, but they closed in June the 30th of last year. And so I didn't know that, but God knew that, you know, that I had some in my retirement. It was decent, but by me help my family. I'm the oldest of my five. I always took care of my family. I was dad, mom, I was everybody to everybody, you know. But
he still is.
I didn't know when I went for my Social Security. I didn't know by us having Shekinah, you know, that we got a home income for her. So, and then they said by me having one for Shekinah, Shannon got one too. So what happened was that I didn't get just one amount. I got a triple amount. 3 amounts. Yeah, I got 3 amounts
every month.
Yeah, and so that allowed us. We were trying to buy a house, but we were renting for the last 5 years prior to my retirement. And then it was when Shannon got in 2008, we moved to a nice ranch home. It was on the other side of town. We was only there for a year or two, year and a half. Lady want the house back. And so that we lived in 808 Piedmont. Long story short, we had to end up moving back to 802 Piedmont. It was like the same sign, but 3 houses up.
It was funny.
So I said, you know what, Lord, I'm gonna stay faithful. And so going into my retirement, God just blessed us with the finances now that we said, well, you know what, I feel like, you know, I said, if anything happens to me, I want Shannon to be blessed. And so Lord blessed us. So we looked at 3 houses. The first one wasn't it. The second, but this house here, God bless it with a 4-bedroom, 3, you know, just everything, 3 baths,
bath on every floor,
everything we need, you know, bless it for a new car, all the different things. But I just told the Lord still, you know, I don't get caught up in the material things. It's still all about Him.
It's the faithfulness.
Everything's His.
It's all material things. Like you're saying, we're not taking it with us. But as we look back, you know how the song says, as I look back over my life and I think things over, I can truly say that I've been blessed. I've got a testimony. That's all we're sharing is a testimony, because when things were really rough and we were struggling and even for 11 or 12 years trying to conceive and expand our family and all of the things, you know, I look back and even as painful as some of it was, even not being able to keep our first house and then renting and then finding out then when I finally did get pregnant after 12 years of trying that we weren't going to have 1 baby but 2 babies. We were like, oh boy, we got to move. And then the house we moved into, like he said, the owner wanted it back. So then we had to move out and find somewhere else. It's been really a crazy journey, but it's again humbling because you know the way we think things are going to turn out. You know, you don't know why you're going down a certain route, or why you're in maybe even a certain profession or anything. Because I believe, no doubt in my mind, that even one of the positions that I took here about 6 or so years ago was for me not to really become a big name with the particular company, but it was because I was supposed to meet a certain individual who needed ministering to, who to this day we're friends. In fact, they just got remarried just a few weeks ago after having left the area about 3 years ago. And I had me speak at her wedding and had our baby girl Shekinah to be her flower girl. And so I'm just saying, relationships, like he said before, are so important. I can't stress it. It had nothing to do, I believe, about that company or that job. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to be able to do this, this, and this. And so far, it hasn't been anything like that, which I would have been glad for, especially as it comes to the financial part of it, because you know we're in ministry, but we also had to work up to this point. You just heard him say he did almost 42 years at one place, and so we always worked. And so I have to say that when that plan in my mind didn't work like I thought, and to see how much we have been blessed, it had nothing to do with what I thought and those secular jobs. He says, I just make a way for you to have, what you need, but it all goes back to him. So anyone that says, well, I don't have to give in the church, I don't have to give an offering, because God don't need my money. You have people that say all sorts of things, but it's not yours anyway. He tells you to give 10%, and that's a good deal. If you have 100, you only have to give 10, and you get to keep the rest. And then they still don't want to do that. And then they don't get the concept that he will even allow that 90 to stretch even more if you just give him what's his first.
Right.
His favorite scripture is seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added. Matthew 6:33. And we are living testimonies of it.
It's righteousness.
You got to. We stand on it.
Yeah.
But I always listen to the ministers growing up and the pastors preach on, how Jesus said that we would do greater works. And it never made sense to me, because I'm like, there's no way we can do more than Jesus did himself. But now, as I've seen what he was talking about, it makes sense, because he knew that we would be in this day and time of technology and being able to hit a button and reach thousands of people at one time. So that's why he said, even in the middle of a pandemic, it's been huge, and our following has not dropped off, if you want to call it that, because all we had was Sunday morning, our faithful Sunday morning crew on every week. And then when everything happened, then we were able to have people tune in from all over the place while we were sitting in our kitchen having service, not even able to go to church. So it was just like mind-boggling. Like, I see now what he meant. So that's why he said, in the middle of what we're going through, not to glorify it, because some people have tried to make it such a big deal, and it's not that it's not a big deal, because it has affected us as well, and some people from our congregation even the more. But the idea of it is, it's still not a surprise to God.
That's right. That's right.
So we don't have to magnify it more than it is, because he's still on the throne. He didn't come off the throne when COVID hit. Okay. So we're just seeing now through this exactly what he's been able to do. Like, we had it in our mind a certain way, and through our entire ministry and our story and everything that we thought happened so different, but we're not complaining, because God has just shown himself so faithful. This whole time. It's just been it's been a journey. That's the only thing I know to call it. It's been a journey.
Well, you guys are just giving such important principles, especially to the up and coming generations who can, go to Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and TikTok and, put whatever out there. But it really, what you're saying is timeless, in that you still have to go through a process of being faithful to God, honoring God, obeying God, trusting God, regardless to, even though they have, listen, my son, if they're going to have an event, they go put it on Instagram, and literally thousands of people will show up.
Just like that.
And like that, just come out. And so now, now that God is like sort of giving us this opportunity, like the older generation, showing us, look what's out here, but still, that foundation, having that foundation in Jesus Christ, that relationship with him first, building relationships with others. That's what I hear you guys are saying. And I think that, you are such a blessing to the body of Christ. You definitely want to keep saying it, teach and train the young people that's coming up, because they're like, okay, we lost a generation and all of that. But I think that these kinds of things, these principles of just letting them know that it's not a quick fix, a microwave kind of thing. It really is walking and being steady, being consistent, trusting God when you can't trace him. I have no idea what God is doing, but really being able to trust him in that process, that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. So
yes, he is.
I thank you guys so much.
Thanks for asking us.
Someone shared, Pastor Denise, too, that we need a crock pot anointing.
We are souls that have been won by Christ.
We are souls that have been made one through Christ.
We are souls that have been called to win souls.